Hello, everyone, and welcome to Move, Crush, Count. This is the podcast where we learn how achievers are changing business growth strategies. The Move, Crush, Count podcast is for you if you want to discover how to strike back against a marketplace in a world that's trying to marginalize and commoditize you. If you were looking to differentiate yourself and you want effective tips and advice from top experts that are going to give you immediate impact on not only your professional career, but your personal life. So today's interview is sponsored by J&L Marketing. J&L is a digital and direct marketing agency that delivers results with strategies that are going to help you outsmart competitors so you don't have to outspend them. The title of today's interview is How Every Expert and Advice Seeker Can Succeed with Audio Apps, and more importantly, do it fast. My name's Scott Joseph, and today I'm talking with audio app expert Jason Hill about new developments when it comes to audio apps and how to monetize your knowledge and your time. Welcome, Jason Hill.
Hey, Scott, thanks for having me on the show today. Excited to share the journey of the Owwll platform and tell you everything about it, how it started, and of course, where it is today, and why people should go ahead and download it and seek advice or give advice as an expert, of course.
Yeah, we'll get into this in the when we get going here with the questions, but it's not just for advice seekers seeking out experts. I go on there to seek out, and we'll talk about this, but I go on there to seek, I'm on there as an expert, but I go to other experts for, topics and conversations about things that I need a little help with as well. So it works in a variety of different, ways there. So, you're a well-known expert on this subject. In fact, as you brought up, you just launched the Owwll app. You've graciously agreed to come on here and share your knowledge on how you got started with that, but how people are using these audio apps. Clubhouse is another example. I love the ideas and some of the marketing. There's a lot of people that are going to be either watching or listening to this show that may use the Clubhouse. I love how you integrate the two. So you've got some great marketing knowledge I want to talk about. But man, thank you for joining us live. I really appreciate it. And let's jump in and start firing away. Is that good with you?
That sounds good to me. Happy to answer any questions that are on your mind and give the audience what they want. Some back-end knowledge about audio apps, of course.
Yeah, let's jump into a little bit of your background, your education, your experience. We'll kind of dive into the audio app. Like, when did you get started? What gave you this idea to even start this app?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's actually podcasting, right? You see if you're watching, live, you see a background called the Shrimp Tank podcast. Yeah. I live down in South Florida. Our podcast is ran in collaboration with the FAU Adams Center for Entrepreneurship. We interview the best and brightest entrepreneurs from South Florida in person. And I would always get such good advice, right? When you think about it, what is a podcast?
Yeah.
It's someone interviewing someone else typically, and you're picking their brain, right? And how cool is it, Scott, that you get to interview such amazing, brilliant people all the time, right? Yep. And if I ask you a question, Scott, as your business, increased since doing podcasting, what would you say?
Yeah,
yeah,
it's. I don't want to say it's doubled, but it's not far from that. And if I take certain segments of it, it's blown up. So yeah, you're 100% right. But you know what you just said?
Yeah.
When I started this, I wanted to help other people that were going through similar challenges that I was going to. I knew I had connections and relationships with certain experts that could help, whether a variety of topics, when you're in a commodity type industry, differentiating, everyone talks about, I want to be unique and differentiate myself. That's easier said than done, especially when it comes to clearly communicating a marketing strategy for all that. But I have to tell you, the side benefit, besides just expanding my network and growing relationships, I'm now, we're in each other's network. We've got a good relationship here going now. And so, but like you just said, man, I underestimated the knowledge that I would sit back and get just by doing these interviews. That's been the biggest benefit for me personally.
And I would agree, right? I didn't see it coming either. I have now over 200 episodes that have been done mostly in person and some online. And then also I've been a guest on a lot of other episodes. So I might be hitting around 300 plus shows all together. And it's amazing what you're able to learn from others, getting to be on either side as a guest, or a host. And that's when the moment clicked. I go, well, other people don't get that opportunity. Everyone's sitting in their car listening to podcasts, driving to work, coming home from work. And at the end of the day, I said, there's other people that want to be the one asking those questions, right? And that's when the idea Owwll came about. It was right when COVID hit, right? March, COVID hit. We all stopped going to work, and we're all working at home, and we're like, what's going to happen, in the future, right? Is this going to be the new normal, right? Working out of a home office, out of your house, or will we one day get back? And no one really knew. And then sometime around like Mayish, I realized like things were not going to go back to normal, right? More people were going to shift to this new mode of, either going to the office 1-2 days a week. I come from New York. Like nothing's fun about commuting to New York City. Right now I live in South Florida, a little easier to commute, but not really. If you work in Miami, you live, 45 minutes away, there's a lot of traffic, or Fort Lauderdale, for example. So I just realized like, this is not going back to normal, and more people are going to seek advice from their living room, from their house, sit in their pajamas. And there was no major audio apps out then, right? When COVID hit, there was no Clubhouse, there was no LinkedIn audio, Twitter Spaces. It didn't really exist. People would just call people, and get on someone's schedule to get advice. And that's when the aha moment, went off. I said, would it be cool if we could look down at our cell phone device, and I'll show the home screen, and literally filter to a specific expert that we wanted. Here's our home screen. If you're listening on audio, go ahead and check the video out. And wouldn't it be cool that I could click someone's profile? We'll do it with Deborah. Oh, not Deborah, Rebecca. And literally call her. I could hit the call button. She's $5 for 10 minutes. Her phone rings like a cell phone call. And I'm speaking to her one-on-one, picking her brain. And, she's let the world know that she's available to take a call. So there's not this awkward feeling of like someone's randomly calling you, which is like today. When you get a random call, you're like, who's calling me? Why are they calling me? Why didn't they tell me? Why didn't they text me that they want to ask a question, right? It's awkward, but our app makes it less awkward. So the idea came around that summer, and I went for it. This is my big aha moment in life, right? I run another business, but this is the moment I said, I'm going to go all in on this idea. And it's been an amazing journey, which we'll go into more detail, of how this journey has been.
I've got all kinds of questions, because that's a really big dream. That's a really big, and I believe in dreaming big and aiming high. And so just so you know, for everyone either listening or watching, we do stream this live. It's going across LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. And of course, we have a frequent guest and a regular commenter in Sandy Cerami, and you two need to meet. But he says Scott needed friends, and podcasting was his last resort. So, but he does come back. He says, we do a good job of getting special guests on and quality people on the show, and you're one of them. You two need to meet. He should be an expert on the app, by the way.
Of course.
Sandy, people gravitate to him. He's extremely professional. He's very sincere. He wants to, he is a giver. He is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to growing businesses and operations and sales, recruiting, all kinds of different key pillars, so to speak, in terms of growing a business. And he'd be a great get and expert on it. So I'm going to connect you two when this show is done. So talk to me. You're on a podcast. You start getting this idea. Where in the heck did you begin?
That's a great question.
How long did it take? Because you didn't have any. Did you have prior knowledge on how to build an app or of anything like this? All right. So how did you get all that started? What I love about this, and the reason I'm asking this, is because I've been pounding lately. Like, if you want to accelerate your growth, quit limiting what you do based on your beliefs. Like, I don't have the knowledge. I don't know how to do that. I can't do that. That's not for me. Because here's a perfect example of someone who had no knowledge on how to build an app, where to go for all this stuff. But walk us through how you did it to make it happen.
That's a great question. And the big thing with our app, which I want to make sure everyone realizes it's on demand. It's getting advice at a moment's notice, and it gives experts the power to go live with a timer mechanism, so that way advice seekers know that they're available to take calls. So that's the differentiator from other platforms out there that just you could book a time into the future. So I wanted to become the Uber of advice, right? To eliminate the friction. We're all on LinkedIn, and we're all like, why can't I just call this person? I see they got the green dot, right? I know they want to network. They're live. They're on the platform, but we can't. It's awkward. So this is LinkedIn on steroids as well, right? For networking, not just for, you know, making a couple dollars giving advice. This is the bigger movement, of course, is networking, as you mentioned earlier. So you're asking, how did I absolutely like kind of go down that path with zero knowledge, right? So it comes back to podcasting, right? I've interviewed amazing guests on our show, and some of them have developed apps, right? And I looked at them like they weren't experts at building apps when they kicked off, and I learned, you know, from what they talked about, right? They talked about, you know, hiring a company, do an MVP, which is a minimal viable product. You sit down usually for 2 weeks to 8 weeks, depending on, you know, the scale of your app, right? And they build the framework, what it would look like, and that's expensive, right? So most people don't even take that first step. Most MVPs.
What's something like that? What does something like that cost?
I mean, if you're doing a very basic app, it costs $1,000, $2,000. Most apps are going to be in that $5,000 to $15,000 range. And then, you know, like very large apps, of course, could be $50,000 to $150,000, right? It's really unlimited depending on the complexity of your platform, right?
Right.
And most people don't take that initial step because they're like, wait, do I really want to spend money just for, you know, a pitch deck, an idea of like what this thing could look like? And I just said, you know, I'm going to do it, right? I've always hear all these guests coming on my show talking about, you know, building an MVP and building the wireframes, what it would look like. And I had no idea. I just said, I have this idea I want to be able to call somebody quicker, right? I think that, you know, podcasting's great, but it's always one directional, right? Why can't I then call the guest after I listen to that, you know, show and be able to get in touch? Like, I want to talk to them, but I got to message them on LinkedIn. I got to hunt them down. And it's like, this is impossible. They got a gazillion inboxes. They don't take me serious. They have a biasness based on my bio, right? I'm in sales. On my main career is sales. You know, I'm a financial advisor. People look at me and say, wait a second, you know, this person's just trying to solicit me. But I'm like, no, I'm just trying to get you on my podcast, Shrimp Tank. Like, you know, I want to ask you a question. I just listened to your podcast. So we have a major flaw right now in the system. We got gazillion inboxes, and it's hard to get in touch with people, and everyone's jumping on podcasts. So that was one of also the reasons that Owwll, you know, was created. You were going to step in, I think. Were you going to?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting you say that, because I think any business that has sales, which is almost all, right? The number one complaint, if you're going to listen to any salesperson, the biggest challenge they have today is getting through and getting an opportunity to talk to a decision maker. So when you talk about these, it's not just do decision makers no longer pick up the phone, all right, the way they used to. But now, even when you're communicating through different social channels and email, there's so many inboxes, like you just said. I mean, that you're competing against a lot of different to get attention. A lot of different things. So I think you're 100% on with that. Yeah.
We did a study where we interviewed 25 plus people for 15, 20 minutes each. And we found that everyone said the same thing, that, you know, when they looked at all their inboxes, they used their intuition on how to determine how to reach back out to, you know, the message that they were receiving. And no one had a formal process, because, you know, what is the formal process? Most people, you know, can, you know, if they're large enough, they could hire a virtual assistant or an assistant to do it. But again, they have a bias and they're missing things. So Owwll prevents that, because if you have someone in your audience that wants to chat with you, right, if they're willing to spend $1 to speak to you, that means you have somebody, you know, that is valuable on the other end. You're right. And you know, you would want to know that, right? There's people listening to this and sending you messages on LinkedIn right now, I bet. And sometimes you're not taking those meetings because your intuition's wrong, right? So
people get mad at me on LinkedIn when I get bombarded in my inbox with the sales pitches. And it's always funny. I don't understand. I understand using the automated messaging services that are out there to help you assist with LinkedIn. What I don't understand is why they set them that to where I immediately accept the connection. I've got a 3-page or a 3-paragraph
Yeah.
message in my inbox. I clearly know that's automated. You'd think they would be smarter about how they do all that. I don't know why they said it like that. That gets off topic a little bit. That's just a little pet peeve of mine. I just, if you're going to market yourself and use the automated thing, do it in a way that's a little bit more, I don't know,
We all
a
get
little
them.
better.
We all get them. It's eyeballs on their
Yeah.
profile, right? And then they hope that, they send 100 messages out and get one person, but then the one
Yeah.
person actually responding is likely not a good potential source for them anyway. So,
Correct.
Owwll can be very helpful for these messages because sometimes there's somebody else working on that person's profile, right? Sending those messages, and the actual person is not meaning to do that. And there is a good person on the other end a lot of times, right? They're able to
Yeah.
afford automation software and they're really going after that, right? Lots of times it is a good person. So you could just send them a message back. Happy to chat with you on Owwll. That's where I do all my first consultations, and put $5 on your profile, right? It doesn't have to be a lot
Yeah.
of money, but if someone's willing to download an app, spend $5 to call you, right? That means they're pretty serious, right? Regardless if it's a solicitation, who knows? So that's where Owwll can be very impactful for everyone getting a massive amount of messages on
And so
any account.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the roadblocks you might have faced
Yep.
early on and how you overcame them. But eventually, I want to start in the second half of this interview. I want to talk about different marketing strategies and
Yep.
how to use this, because to me, it's not just with Owwll. I mean, there's going to be some things that are very specific to Owwll because it has certain capabilities that other platforms don't have, right? But at the same time, just the strategy and the way you're kind of interchanging different things, I think can apply to a lot, where anybody listening or watching can integrate it right away into whatever they're doing. So first question: what roadblocks, what challenges did you have to overcome early when you were either trying to build this or launch it? Yeah,
Yeah, so
money.
right when you go after an MVP, right, that's expensive, right? So an MVP is just a deck that's 30 pages, 50 pages long, and all the things that will be part of the platform, right? All the automation, right? When someone signs in, right, they could do it through Google, they could do it through Facebook, then email versus text, and then eventually
Yeah.
get an email automated to them and verification codes, right? So all that's built in the MVP when you have a good development team. So the first thing is like finding someone. There's a gazillion developers. We all get emails every day from people overseas like, hey, do you need to build a mobile app, right? So you have to first start with finding the right team to even build an MVP. Thankfully, I've interviewed very successful entrepreneurs from South Florida, and I had confidence in the team that I selected. So right off the bat, that's where I had an edge up, where I was going into this with people that wanted me to succeed at the end of the day.
So I was on Clubhouse the other night. All right. And we were talking, uh, and when you're asking for help, always ask for help from someone who's already accomplished what you're trying to accomplish, whatever goal that might be. And what you just touched on there's a lot of people that have no idea who would be a good company. Even after vetting them, they still wouldn't, because they don't have the technical knowledge to know which company's probably blowing has a lot of smoke and mirrors, right? Versus good versus bad, whatever it might be. But what
Sure.
you did is exactly, if you don't know someone, odds are you know someone who knows someone. And by the way, now every single person knows someone. Everyone watching or listening to this knows you.
Yep.
So if you're thinking about doing something like this and you need help and you need direction and you're not sure which is the right company, get on now and
Of course.
reach out to Jason. You only charge like $1 for 10 minutes, correct?
I'm free pretty much
You're
because,
free.
yeah, they use your
So
referral code. They get $10 to enter the app, right? And then every referral that they provide, they get $10 too. So right now it's pretty much a free platform because we have, we just started charging real prices on June 7th, right? Where you could charge any amount that you would like. You can make deposits, you could do withdrawals. So most people are realizing that right now it's more about networking, charging
yep,
$1 to $10, unless you have a very large audience and you're going to tell the audience, come on here to call you, right? At that point, if you have 1 million followers, yes, you don't need to charge $1. You don't want $1 call. You'll charge $500 for a 10-minute call and you will
yeah,
receive that. But if you're going to go sign up and then try to charge $500, you will not get paid because no one knows who you are at the end of the day.
correct.
So most people coming on there charging $1, $10, realizing that this is the amount people are getting in bonuses. So why not give them a first call for free or two? And for me, I refund the money back. So if someone calls me for $1, I just hit the refund button. So I am free because I want to make sure people experience the platform properly.
So I am not free, but let me tell you what I do. I don't feel like in 10 minutes I could be helpful in 10 minutes. But
Yeah,
if you don't know me and you call and you reach out to me, um, you're not that sure. I mean, there's got to be an
sure,
exploratory conversation to see if
sure.
I have the knowledge or experience that can help someone uh, for their specific situation. So what I've done is I've changed my approach on there. I think the first 10 minutes I'm like $2,
Yeah,
and because it's going to take 10 minutes to kind of question back and forth between me and the person that reached
yeah,
out to make sure we're a good fit and can I help them.
yeah.
And then after that, then those next 10 minutes or 5 minutes is when I raise that game. So basically, I have a exploratory call, so to speak, that's almost free. So
And a lot of experts have done that. They write on their profile that my first 10 minutes
yeah,
is $2, $5, right? And the beauty of our platform is right when you're on a call, you have three options. You could extend the call for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or
yeah,
20 minutes. So what they've said is you cannot click the 10-minute button again. If you want to spend more time with me past 10 minutes, you have to click the 5-minute button or the 20-minute button. So they're working the system because they're saying, look, I understand that you don't know if you really want to spend $50 for an additional 10 minutes with me, but after the first 10 minutes, the odds are you will. So they're doing what you're saying is they're, worst case scenario, $2 for 10 minutes, they have a contact, they have a review on their profile, and they'll see where it goes. Because if you're just trying to make as much money as you possibly can in a 10-minute call, that likely it's not going to
yeah,
work long term for you. Like, this isn't a platform about making $1 million on 10-minute calls. It's really saying, let's chat with somebody for 10 minutes to an hour, right? And then eventually, if they want to do things outside of Owwll, right? That's why it's called LinkedIn 2.0, because
yeah,
now you could jump on a podcast with that individual, right? You
right.
could meet them in person. We've seen that, or do business, of course, right? Jump on Zoom, right? No one's
Yep.
saying you got to do all the things on Owwll, right? That's not what happens on Clubhouse or LinkedIn, right? It's saying, like, this is a safe environment with boundaries to have an introductory call. And then eventually, if you're a lawyer, and someone wants to do business with you, of course, do it your normal process. Make them sign an agreement and put a deposit down, right? So same thing on our platform.
We had a guest on here recently that relationship only formed because of Al. And
That's awesome.
she's frequent on your platform, and that's Renee Reich.
Yes,
Yeah.
Renee's awesome.
So yeah.
Absolutely.
So she was a guest a couple weeks ago. The episode hasn't dropped yet, and it was live, but in terms of the podcast, it hasn't dropped yet, but it's coming up here in a couple weeks. So, good episode. She's a great person. So let me get back to that question about overcoming. You were talking about overcoming and the MVP and vetting and getting the right company to kind of plan this and sketch this out or draft it up for you. Let me let you finish that thought, and then we'll jump into some, breakthroughs you had early on.
Yeah. So the first 4 weeks, I was on Zoom meetings every day with 8 developers, and you had to come to the table, show up. I mean, that's the most important thing, showing up when you say you will, and doing your homework, right? They say, we need this by tomorrow, we need that by Friday, and we had to come up with a brand name, right? Then they had to design the logo. Like, this, nothing existed, right? All those things, had to be done very quickly, and you couldn't spend time, just like, well, I want a better logo. Too many times people spend too much time on logos and things that do not matter that much. So thankfully, we just kept going and going, and it
Yeah.
came out very, very similar to what we see today. We've now made improvements on the platform, but the sticker shock came out after 4 weeks. This is what it will cost, to build it, right? Hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's going to take 6 to 8 months to build. And then additionally, remember, it's going to cost X amount to maintain, right? It's about the same price to build it, to maintain it every single month. And the
Yeah.
reason why most people fail with mobile platforms or apps is that they build it with 50% of the money to build it, and they think, hey, I'm going to raise capital because people are going to love this idea. Newsflash: venture capitalists, angel investors hate apps. hate them, right? Because saying that, Scott, how many times you're like, download another app, right? How
Yeah,
many times, right? Like another one, another one.
you're
But
right.
when you look at your cell phone, most apps that you use on a daily basis, are apps like Starbucks, Dunkin' Donuts,
Yeah,
Amazon, right? Apps that they're just helping you kind of get to their product easier, but they didn't start a bit. It's not a business from scratch at the end of the day, like Facebook or Clubhouse
right.
did, right? So there's very few apps that you have on a regular basis that you're using that started from scratch. So they know that. They know the failure rate's 99%, right?
Yeah,
99% of these apps fail. And the number one reason is simple: they run out of money, right? So the people build them. Everyone 18 years old to 30 years old, first thing that comes out of their mouth when they want to build a business is, "Oh, I want to build a mobile app," right? And of course that doesn't make sense if they don't have the capital to do so. So right off the bat, I was fortunate, being a financial service professional. I teach people about money, right? I knew that I was not going to run out of money self-funding it, right? So when I made the decision to proceed, it was a huge risk I was taking financially. I'm married, 2 children. I put everything on the line, right? And that's what you have to do. You hear the story all the time. It's like, if you're going all in, you have to do it.
yeah,
So I did, and thankfully the developer came along the ride with me. He provided me a discount for a little bit of equity, and also to maintain the platform, a discount as well. So we did formalize an agreement. So I was very confident knowing that when I went into building this, that I had a partner in crime that wanted to see a success, versus just outsourcing this app overseas and really not understanding what was going on. Knowing that I had zero knowledge of code, I really did not feel confident saying, I'm going to build this overseas and just cross my fingers it comes out
yeah.
the way we want, or just picking an agency to build it and they're building 30 other apps, and you really just don't know if they care more about how much they're collecting in revenue versus the success of the platform. So knowing that they were partners in crime with me, I felt that made a huge impact, and it has, right? Knowing that they've been along this ride ever since. And development started January 1st, 2020. So you could see, like, this has taken a very long time. So most people think short term, like, I'm going to build an app in 6 months and make $1 million. Right? No, apps take years to build, because you have to one day launch, and to get people to download an app in a testing environment, extremely difficult. You don't get it in the app store. This thing
Yeah.
called test flight exists. You got to test it in a testing environment, and really hard, because most people don't want to be the guinea pigs, right? They don't want to be
Yeah.
the new adopter with bugs. And to create a platform like we did, it's almost impossible, because you're like, wait, I need an expert and advice seeker, and it's on demand. So like, how am I going to test this if I don't have hundreds of people in there? So you're just pulling people in one at a time. And that, again, thankfully, I had a large network and people were
It's
willing to do
funny.
it.
It's funny you say that, because I literally am getting hit from one of my connections to test this app. It's not an app yet. I couldn't get
Yeah,
it, and it's in a testing platform. And I'm like, so it's kind
yeah,
of like this. Um, it's a weird scenario, because I'm not able to. I feel like I'm not really testing it the way I would normally, use an app. And so to me, my initial thought is, I don't want to really get involved in it. And so I
sure.
think two things from what you just said. I always have a lot of respect for someone that have, listen, when I started J&L, I was 22 years old. I was living at home with mom and dad. That doesn't take courage. That just has a belief in yourself, right? And but I always have a tremendous amount of respect for people that have real world, real life responsibilities, uh, wife, kids, mortgage payments, and everything else that go on, and decide to put it all on the line and do something big like this. To me, that takes a tremendous amount of courage. I just love that. And then the second thing is, you knew nothing about this, but what you did know, you leveraged to help build a strong foundation. So you took your finance expertise, all right, and you knew how to structure a deal with the other partner. You knew how, what it would take from, I guess, to sustain it and build it and grow it. And so I love, usually successful things, there's an element of what we do very well that always comes into play. And that's what I took out of those two things. I when you were telling me all this, that's what just stood out to me.
Yeah. And I would say there's one more, the marketing piece. So most
Yep.
apps fail actually for that reason, marketing, right? You could
Yep.
build it, but because there's millions of apps on the app store, you have to get people to take their device, sign into the App Store or Google Play Store, hit the download button, and then sign up, right? Give your personal information to the app that you know nothing about, which everyone
Yeah.
is really nervous today, when it comes to security and where their information is going, of course. So thankfully, I have a marketing background, right? When you look at financial services, it's getting people, to trust you, to hand over, their money. At the end of the day, it's one of the hardest industries
Yep.
to market to. And then additionally, running a podcast, right? I had to market to get people onto our show, and then we market our show. So thankfully, I have a strong background in marketing, and when I built it, that was kind of part of the process. Like, how are we going to build brand ambassadors, right? How are we going to build experts on this platform the proper way? How are we going to vet these experts the proper way, so that way the platform goes in a professional direction from day one? Otherwise, I could commonly tell you that most people would have built the same exact Owwll app a year ago and it would be shut down, because it was the hardest thing I've ever experienced in my life to get the first 300 people to download this app. I was
Wow.
messaging people every day on Clubhouse in the back channel, messaging people on LinkedIn. And for every
Yep.
100 messages, you maybe get 1 to 2 people to do it.
Yep.
And eventually it takes the Renees that you talked about that went
Yep.
onto this platform and then says, what is this thing? Like, but they don't take that initial step at first, because you can't explain it over this podcast. Most people say, another audio app, big deal. You get to talk to someone one-on-one, and that person as an expert could charge a price and make a few dollars, right? It doesn't seem like, oh my God, this is amazing. But the second you log in and you see the screen of profiles, and it's like a LinkedIn profile, but you're like, wow, I could call this person right now for $1, $5. And then when you
Yeah.
have that person on the other end, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I didn't share my cell phone contact, my email. There was a timer mechanism. The person couldn't
Yeah.
steal more time from me. They couldn't talk my ear off. They have to leave a review. It's double-sided. Advice seeker gets a review and expert gets a review. And all of a sudden, it's just like this aha moment, which happened to Renee and many others, where they're like, this is pretty cool, right? And then they
Yep.
share that story with the next individual. But remember, the app had a lot of bugs a year ago, right? When we were
Yep.
doing our first testing, people said, this is cool, but the thing doesn't work, right? Like, and when there was major bugs, it is very complex under the hood of this platform because of the money mechanism in place. Once you add money as an element, you got to be very cautious. You steal $1 for someone, right? They're gonna leave you a negative review. People are very unhappy today, right? We know that we're at the all-time highest levels on happiness ever in our history. And
Yep.
the second you take a buck from someone, they will roast you, right? So we had
They
to
get
make sure all that. Yeah.
they get unhappier faster.
Yes, or they have a bad experience, right? They
Yeah.
call an expert, and we can't control what you say, right? You have a bad day, and you're like, I gave bad advice that day. Like, they were asking me questions, I was off. Like, we all have off days, right? All of a sudden, like, is it the app's fault or is it the expert's fault, right? We want to make sure they understand, like, we are just, a technology that provides a platform for everyone, very similar like Upwork or Fiverr, right? And you're leaving a review for that reason to that individual, but we've really taken off because of people like you, Scott, people like Renee, and many others that have shared their successes having one-on-one conversations, and then what it's led to afterwards. So it's
Yeah.
really a fun time seeing it grow right now.
So what kind of breakthroughs, what was your first breakthrough? So was it just hitting that 300 people, or at what point was there a tipping point where you're like, this is going to take off, this is working?
Yeah,
And what caused it?
it was like the first 3 months of the beta test. I was laying in bed, and it was like 11 o'clock at night. I'm watching TV, and I follow every expert, right? Back then, only experts have visible profiles. When you first sign up, you're just an advice seeker. You must apply to become an expert. And when anyone follows everyone, you get a notification that they're online, so you could chat with them. So I saw 2 people go online, and then I saw their green dot goes to a red dot when they're on a conversation. They were the only 2 people. So I was like, it's working. I was like, 2 people are having a conversation right now, and it's
Yeah.
because of this technology, Owwll, right? Owwll instigated 2 people to have a one-on-one conversation. And then afterwards, I got an email saying how awesome it was that Owwll connected the two. And then it started, to continue, right? It started with one call like that. Then it was 5 calls a day. Then it was 10 calls a day. And there was a point we had over 1,000 calls in a month. And these were all free calls at the time. We were dealing with fake money, just seeing if the system was working. And when we started hearing these stories come, about like, oh, I was just on their show because of Owwll. I was, talking to a doctor on Owwll and he gave me great advice. I was talking to a health professional and they gave me great advice. Because right now we have, so much free information on the internet, YouTube, Google, and everything is based on views. It doesn't make them an expert. It makes them that they did a great video on YouTube or TikTok, right? But they're not even a doctor. Right? They're just talking, what does well for the algorithm at the end of the day. And our platform, people love that's like, it's the real deal, right? There's real doctors on there. There's real lawyers. There's real accountants, real financial professionals, real podcasters like yourself, real marketers, right? And people have to be who they say they are on our platform, which is also a major difference.
I'm a marketer disguised as a podcaster.
Yes. Well, all relates, right?
Well, you brought up an interesting thing. You added that third element, marketing, to one of the original obstacles and barriers and stuff, but challenges you had that you had to overcome. There are a lot of good companies, a lot of good products that fail, and it all comes down to marketing. Yep. So, there are a lot of not great companies and not great products that do very well because their marketing's, kicks butt on it. So, I think you're right on there. So I got to tell you, when I love audio apps, and I want to start getting into that conversation now. I was on Clubhouse, probably not right out of the gate, but I feel like pretty early on. And immediately loved it. I just felt like there was this, I got an adrenaline rush from being on stage, helping people with their challenges. That really I loved it. It almost became like this addictive thing. Like, man, I was like, people had certain things. I love to be able to kind of give them some tips or little things that either I've experienced along the way and it's helped me, or that I've seen other people, right? It just gave me, it was like this natural high. How has audio apps, how have they kind of evolved, I guess, from when they first started coming out to where they're at now?
So it's a really funny story. You mentioned Clubhouse. So the first week in development, January 2021 of Owwll, I start seeing messages on LinkedIn. Got to try this new app. You got Grant Cardone, Gary Vee on there, and you could talk with them and one-on-one. And I was like, oh no, that's what I'm developing. And I literally thought it was Owwll. And then, I was like hunting down like to get into it because you needed, a referral to get in. And eventually I got in and I was like, oh, it's groups. It's okay. They're not charging money. And thankfully, I was like, wait, this could be a good thing. People love this. This is going to help, one day, fulfill a different need, because no one can go one-on-one on that platform. They go one-on-one, but not for charging. And most people don't want to take one-on-one meetings, right? Like Grant Cardone's not going one-on-one with you, because you wave at him on Clubhouse, unless you pay him, $5,000, jump in.
Well, you don't want to leave the room. So that's the challenge, is when I get waved at in Clubhouse, I'm like, I do it. But I'm in that room for a reason. I don't want to leave that room necessarily. So, and usually when they're waving at me, it has nothing to, it's usually self-serving on their end more than, a give and take there. So,
well, Clubhouse helped us kind of onboard people, right? There was a lot of people I met on Clubhouse. Then I would message them in the back channel, hey, would you like to be part of the testing environment with Owwll? So I do have a lot of people that have downloaded Owwll a year ago that came from Clubhouse, because they saw it as, two separate platforms. Like Clubhouse is great for groups, Owwll's great for one-on-ones, right? So it was pretty unique that I was able to jump on Clubhouse, jump into rooms, and scary in the beginning. You're like jumping into the pitch room and pitching, Owwll, and they're like, next, right? Like, they're like another audio app, right? Because at that point, a lot of people were coming out with audio apps. Wisdom came out shortly thereafter, Twitter Spaces, LinkedIn Audio still in beta, and there's a gazillion others that are trying to, take out Clubhouse. No one's really done it yet, even though people make fun of Clubhouse. You're right. They're like, oh, that's not for me. Oh, the downloads have gone down. Oh, the rooms, are not the same like they once were. But there's nobody else as big as Clubhouse, right?
Now, I do
They
agree.
still own
I
the
do
number
agree.
one spot.
Correct. I do agree with that. Uh, but that has nothing to do with Clubhouse. That has everything to do with people changing their approach in Clubhouse in terms of how their rooms are. I like interactive rooms.
Yeah.
I just don't get a lot out of going into a room and hearing 4 or 5 designated people talk.
Yeah.
I like the back and forth. Now, I don't want a room that has chaos.
Yes.
It's got to be moderated well. Yeah, we've all been in those. But I got to tell you, some of the relationships in the last 3 years that have become the strongest, that have helped us, me personally and professionally, in terms of helping me build my own network and grow relationships with people I have never known, all started from audio apps. I've done 8-figure deals that all started and would have never happened without an audio app. So I really think it's funny. I had a room the other night in Clubhouse, and I had a few people I invited to help moderate up, and one person, you probably know her. I'm not going to bring her name up, but one person is you would know her through Podfest. All right. And she's great. So she's another person you need to have on your platform, by the way. And I'll make that introduction when we're done. But she doesn't use Clubhouse much. And she's like, all right, do I need to do this? Do I need to do? I said, I'm not going to say the name, but I said, this is what's great. I said, you could be sitting in your underwear on the couch. It doesn't matter. I said, there's no pressure because you don't have to unmute the mic. You're in a group setting. It's not this one-on-one like you and I are doing right now. When you can offer advice and be helpful, you can unmute. You could be doing whatever you need to do. I mean, I'm on Clubhouse. I'm smoking a cigar, or I'm just out in a t-shirt and doing whatever. I'm relaxed. It's not this. There's an element to it that just takes a lot of pressure off people and makes people feel that don't know each other.
Yes.
Very comfortable. The calls I've received on Owwll, it's just a comfortable setting. And so I just think there's something to all this. And I'm no psychologist. I don't know why or what makes all that work. I just know I like it.
It's funny. Sometimes I say the same thing, even though I'm the founder of the brand, there's something to it, right? We have introverts that love it, right? Because they love the boundaries it creates, right? They're not jumping on a video call where it's awkward. They love the timer mechanism, that the timer's going down and someone can't steal more of their value, right? Their time, from them, and just sit on there unless they click the, ask for more time, and then they could reject it. They could kindly say, hey, I have another meeting coming up. So they love the boundaries it creates. And the review mechanism, how people must act professionally. And I say that's the big differentiator between us and Clubhouse is people are held responsible, right? Because they start cursing at that other individual on Clubhouse, nothing happens, right? No one rarely gets kicked off of that platform. They could do what they want. They get kicked off the stage, but big deal. They could try scamming people in the back end, right? And try to sell them a course that's not really up to par. We've seen that on the Clubhouse, but with Owwll, you're shooting yourself in the foot, right? You do something inappropriate and that person leaves you a 1 or 2 star review, right? Good luck, going live and getting more phone calls, right? So people really love the aspect that we are so professional. And there's 3 levels. You come in as an advice seeker, right? Then you apply to become an expert. When you apply, I'm just vetting that your social media links match to who you say you are, real names, right? We're not trying to make fake names. If someone's calling you, they're going to spend money to call who you are, not a fake name. Next, think about this. If you're an expert and you make money, how do you get money off, right? You have to actually put your social security number in, your date of birth, your address, because there's real taxes. If you made $100,000 on Owwll, we must send you a 1099. So people love hearing that there's all these different integrations to make it the most professional atmosphere that exists. And we've caught scammers trying to do that immediately, and we've deactivated their account because they come in and immediately they're soliciting and trying to tell people to send them money. through Venmo or somewhere else, and people are like, nope, see you later. Right. So they email me immediately, and it's obvious, right? We could catch a fake a mile away, where these other platforms are allowing it. So yeah, it's been a great journey for the last year. We pretty much been beta the last year. We just launched on June 7th, the ability to deposit, withdraw, and change your price. Prior to that, for about 3 months on the App Store, we were just making everyone charge $1, and we told no one to do any of the other stuff because we knew we weren't ready. There's a lot of complexity with our platform under the hood when it comes to money, and that's what sets us apart from a lot of other platforms. They can't just turn on money that easily, right? There's a lot of problems that could exist, and they get in a lot of trouble, right? Remember, dealing with money, right? You got to send someone 1099, and a lot of people don't see that. Like, why don't you let international users? Why don't you let this? I'm like, because there's real money, right? We don't want to get ahead of ourselves, right? I want to get 25 lawsuits on my hands and be out of business before we ever started, right? So, but what makes us unique is, like, we took our time, and we have a good group of people that are on the platform now, and they're the ones that are, now marketing on our behalf, right? We are growing organically at this point, pretty much.
So, clearly, if you're in this space at the level you're in it at, you're keeping an eye on the ball in terms of what's coming down the pike. Like, what do you see on the immediate horizon in terms of these audio apps, Owwll included? Where does it go next?
Yeah, a lot of them are going to fail because most of them that are out there are not self-funded. Almost all of them have gotten a check written to them for 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, and a lot of them are burning through those funds. And it might look good to the user, like it's working, but at the end of the day, they're going to have to ask for more money, right? And if they don't get the money, they're out of business. So at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot that are going out of business. That's the first thing, right? Because they're not making any money. They're just saying, well, our data is worth something. We know data has high value on it, of course, but they're going to go out of business because they don't have the right users. They get growth early on, and then they lose a lot of those people logging in on a daily basis. So I just believe that it's going to thin out. And some never even got started, like LinkedIn Audio. Like, what is going on? They've been in beta for like a year and a half now, I feel like, and they haven't budged. They haven't moved. And they were supposed to be the 800-pound gorilla to take on Clubhouse, in my belief, right?
Maybe they don't see it in terms of their initial model. Maybe they just don't see it as.
Yeah. I've done a couple rooms where, we brought other people from the Owwll community in, and we chatted on LinkedIn, and it makes sense because you already have followers on that platform.
Listen, I like it. My fear as a person would be, I just know how I get bombarded. I mean, it's hard for me to keep up with my LinkedIn inbox.
Yes.
I get bombarded with sales pitches from people that connect with me, and I go into every connection with the right intentions. When I connect with people, I'm not sitting there bombarding them with sales pitches, and I know it's a business app, and I'd be a little worried. In your platform, I like it because if someone comes to me and uses the 10 minutes to just sell me something, I can 1-star them.
Yeah, of course. I did not call for advice, solicited me, right? Didn't feel comfortable, during the entire 10 minutes, made it very, exactly. So right now, I mean, Twitter Spaces kind of came out, but it's been more, towards crypto and NFTs. We haven't seen it kind of go into other verticals. So there's really nothing major out there that's taken on Clubhouse based on, daily users at this current time. You have, apps like, but they're different. When Mark Cuban's app, I'm blanking out. It is, what is it called? It's more for, you have a show like we're doing right here, and then the audience come on. It's more visuals. At the end of the day,
I forget it too. I know I've heard of it, but I've never been on it.
Spotify had one, and then they stopped it, and they say they're going to bring it back. Amazon's working on something as well, but again, they've all been saying this, but I haven't really seen a lot of it kind of come out. And there's a lot. I have 100+ on a document that are just like players that typically have funding, 2 million to 12 million. Some have 12 million of funding, but you would never know who they are, right? They're not moving.
Amazon might be able to self-fund.
They have a few. They have a few.
Yeah.
But more
The
likely, an Amazon type will go out and just buy one that already is kind of an existent, probably, that they could
right,
just pour some rocket fuel under and then relabel it Amazon. Amazon Audio,
right. Yeah,
right?
that's
So
exactly right. Wait,
we do have their
let's
same
switch.
colors. We do have their same. We do have the gold and white.
Let's switch gears a little bit. I want to talk about different ways to market it. If I'm an individual and
Yeah,
building a brand and or a company, right?
yeah,
And we should have done that. I should have been. I'm a marketer, and I wasn't smart enough to think to do it right here on this show. But what we should have
sure.
done is sharing my referral code. I'll do that in the description. I'll add that into our description and on the social post. But um, you know, let's talk a little bit about the different ways that you're using it. Let's say I'm in Clubhouse, because I love this, because you can pin that link at the top
Yes,
of Clubhouse when you're in a room. And you gave a good example. And by the way, people can go on your app, ask you the different ways to do this. But if they're
yes,
watching and listening, let's give them some top 3 or 4, 5 ways
yeah.
they can integrate different apps with what you're doing to help both.
Yeah, so Clubhouse is very easy, right? You're in a
Yep.
room. Most of these rooms go 1 hour, right? So you should make it, as you're chatting, every 20, 30 minutes, say, hey, if you found value from any of the moderators up on stage, we will be heading over to Owwll, and you could chat with us one-on-one, and
Yeah.
our price will be listed on our profile. So it's a way to kind of, as you're providing value in the audience for free, convert them over, to a real customer or client. Because why are they sitting in that room listening? Obviously, they respect what you're saying. But then what ends up
Yeah.
happening with most Clubhouses, you get inbox messages and you don't know who they are. Then you have to play the game of messaging back and forth, then sending, personal information like an email, phone number, and then it's weeks out and you're like, who was that? What was I talking about? But there's something to this instant, right? You just had them in your room. They were just asking you a question on stage, and now you're on a one-on-one meeting with them on Owwll. How impactful is that? So you should
Well,
always
not
just
not only
talk.
that, like, for instance, I think the person helping the expert as well,
Yep,
like I said before, I love these audio apps because to me, there's just a personal high I get from them.
yep,
And I think that goes both ways, whether
sure.
I'm receiving information or giving. And
Yeah,
so you're 100% right. You're kind of coming off this stage,
yes,
and or you were in a room and you want more.
yes.
You can build on that, and that makes it an easy way. What else what else is another way?
Yeah, so put your link at the top. We've had a lot of
Yep.
people make one-page websites that's free through Google and put your referral code at the top, right? So when
Yep.
people go to a landing page, like use my code and get $10 for free on Clubhouse, and then additionally, you could put it right in a link tree, right? Contact me through Owwll. So we're
Yep.
starting to see people just put it, in their typical ways to reach out to them on their website, on their link tree, on their email signature. We've seen, and show notes on podcasts is another great example. Like everyone you interview, like people want more. They want to talk to you. They want to talk to that guest. So it's a great thing to just start putting like, hey, if you want to chat one-on-one, we're the only podcast that allows you to chat one-on-one with our audience, right? With our, sorry, not our audience, our guests, right? So then they could reach out to the guest that you had on the show and dive in right after a live interview like we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And then after that, share your profile, right? We have the ability now to share your Owwll profile. So a lot of people have done office hours where every week you put it in your schedule, 30 minutes, 1 hour, whatever it might be, that you could post on Instagram in your story, right? You're not killing your whole feed then. It just goes in your story. I'm on Owwll every Thursday from 10 to 11 a.m. Call me, right? And then you could post about it. And we're seeing great success for people who have audiences, right? You have a large audience
Right.
on LinkedIn, definitely have
Yep.
people that want to chat with you. So you could start putting in the post. And if you want to chat with me, feel free to reach out to me on Owwll. I'm always available Thursdays from 10 to
I
11. So you start building your process, and then all of a sudden, people are going to start calling you because like, oh,
I've
that's
got to
pretty
get
cool.
better. I've got to get better. So I got to tell you right now, one of the things I'm gonna do is when this show's over, I'm gonna have Steven, uh, our producer of this. I'm gonna replay this little last part of it,
Sure.
and I'm gonna start incorporating this into my social strategy. So, um, I love all that. So, what do you have any other ones you want to share?
Yeah. So
Those
that's
are
the
some
main.
great examples.
Yeah, that's the major thing because everyone already has an audience that they serve,
Yep.
and lots of times people there that definitely would chat if they knew that it was that easy through a platform like Owwll and a secure platform, of course. And then use that bonus code to your advantage, right? If you
Yep.
know that they're getting $10 from signing up when they use that bonus code, right? Your first call is free with you, right?
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is say, hey, when you download this app using my $10 code, my call cost is $10. Your first call is on the house when you use this code, right? And how unique is that they feel like they're getting something, and everyone likes free crap, right? We know this.
Yeah.
Every industry does it. Talk to me and get the first $10 waived, right? And then you can leverage another connection, right? You and I are both super connectors, we're known as, because once you start doing podcasts, right, all of a sudden immediately, like, Jason, you spoke about someone earlier on the show, like Jason needs to speak to this person, right?
Yep.
So it just becomes this high when you're able to connect people together, and that giving
great.
And that's what I've always been, and that's another part of why I was built, is like running a podcast. I love that high of giving, right? Connecting two people that didn't realize they were on, they needed to chat, and then boom, they're working together or they're doing a podcast together. And that's what Owwll does. It connects people quicker. I mean, there's hundreds of podcasts that have been done after conversations on Owwll. Podcasters love it, of course, because of audio technology. But then, like, then it starts with a podcast like you did with Renee, but then it starts to like, well, who does Renee know? And then it just, it just keeps going and going and going. And we have such success stories of literally a doctor helping somebody give advice, something they weren't aware of with different types of diseases, right? These things where, like, you can never get in touch with doctors, right? Or people that have that niche scenario that happened to their life, right? And we've seen that, and then they're like, wow, that
Listen,
I couldn't get on the internet.
I've seen attorneys as expert on your platform. I think that's a home run for them because, especially if they're not in a big firm where they don't have to worry about, well, I'm selling my time on the side. You can't have a side hustle. But
of course,
because a lot of people, I don't want to sit there and call a law firm for every little thing. I just want a little piece of advice on something, how something should be handled. I don't need it written up in a document. It could lead to that.
Yeah.
Right. But my initial 10 minutes might be just like, what would your advice be? What road should I navigate down to make sure I handle this type of situation right? Right. And I think that's a home run thing. So let me ask you this final question. I want you to, it's not even a question. I want you to brag to me about the best things going on for you in the last 30 days.
Okay. That is a loaded question that we will try to get around. So the best things are, some of the stories, right? That's what keeps me moving, right? Because most people would have quit by now. This is a very expensive project that I'm doing, self-funded. And most often they would have thrown in the towel because there's no money being made. Right, we lose money every single month, and there's no sight of making a lot of money on this probably for a long time. We'll probably have to raise a lot of capital in the future to keep it going. Most apps like Uber do that as well, of course. But what keeps me going is these stories from folks like Renee. Like, we had the FAU College of Business did a test with us. We took 40 students, and part of their course grade was to call 3 entrepreneurs on Owwll and then write up a report. So we're going to get this report in the next 7 to 10 days, I believe. And people like Renee, I'm going to pick her, fielded like 6 calls by dumb luck, like Renee got all the calls, right? But what ended up happening, she was shaking because she realized that it wasn't about the grade. People were calling her for real advice. There was a lot of females that have lost their voice to domestic violence, to just in a bad zone in their life with COVID, right? The unhappiness that we're seeing due to social media. And Renee went through that personally. And I feel, when Renee took these calls, she didn't see it coming. So the last 30 days was that call with Renee saying like the shivers of like, and what you said it earlier, there's something about providing knowledge, and wisdom to the next generation and to others that it's just, it hits the heart. So that project with FAU, like, I am so excited to see what comes out of it because I didn't see that coming, right? Going back to like the marketing days, like I thought our app was for 30 to 60-year-olds in the professional service world, our LinkedIn audience, and they're going to use this. But I'm like, wait a second, this could be amazing tool to help students because it's a controlled environment where Clubhouse is not, right?
If I'm a student, I want you to, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
But if I'm a student and I'm going into the job world for the first time, my first real job. God, think of all the people they could call on your app on how do you really interview? when you're interviewing people,
Yeah.
let's say I'm a student and I'm
Yeah.
calling you, I'm saying, Jason, when you're interviewing people, what are the questions you typically ask? But more importantly, what are the answers you really want to hear?
Yeah.
I'm going, I mean, there's just so many ways that you could use this.
Oh, and I didn't see that coming because it's really, we have a platform, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait, it could be used for this, it could be used for that, right?
Yeah.
And you are correct. The number one thing that students said, because we've done multiple projects with the FEU College of Business, and we put on a big projector, and the number one thing people said that they liked was getting career advice. Because what do they do
Yeah.
to get career advice? They look at things on the internet, but that's not
Yep.
true. The job description is not what it's really like in the real environment. We know that. And
Yep.
then they can't really speak to anybody, and then it's uncomfortable to jump on Zoom or to hunt someone down, like, hey, could you tell me about what it was like? Most people have friends and
Yep.
family, but on Owwll they could just jump in there, be like, hey, I'm thinking about becoming this. Can you tell me what it's really like on the other end? And someone like you or me could tell them, hey, I know you want to build a mobile app. I've seen that a lot from 21-year-olds graduating college. And I go, stop, right? I just want to be honest. Like, you don't have the network to likely pull this off, or the funding, right? You should
Yep.
really work on the funding first, or work for another brand that does apps, so you really get
Yep.
the fundamentals down, and then go out and do it on your own. So it's so impactful for them to go onto this platform and to seek guidance on their careers. And we are partnering with the Career Center now. They put flyers up, and it's funny. I don't know where a flyer went in Chicago, but it's like, saw a flyer in Career Center Chicago. I don't know who put that one up, but a professor downloaded it. So what we could
Good.
do is actually go to career centers and drive students to leverage this technology and maybe get a grant or two, right? And all of a sudden go college, but we have a grant. Students can use
Yeah.
this platform for free. We'll load everyone up with $50 when they download it through the grant, and they could call other people, get career advice. So it's really as
I,
simple as that.
is it business fun? Isn't it great when, by the way, nothing happens until you launch. There was something you
Yeah.
said earlier I want to touch on, right? You had all the bugs initially when it was in the testing phase, but you don't find it's very difficult. Everyone has a quality process, right? But
Yeah.
it's hard to find everything until real people
Oh,
start
yes.
using things, right? And then you find the real bugs. But gosh, isn't it fun? You launch this business and you have this vision. All right, this is what's going to happen. But then you launch it, and real world people start using things and start using your product and your service. And the next thing you know, all these new opportunities start exposing themselves in
Yes.
different ways it could be used and how it could benefit people. I just think the dynamic of that, because that happens, I think, with any new product or service that's launched. If you pay close attention to the feedback and the data in terms of the people using the product or the service, if as long as you're willing to pivot quickly and be flexible and adjust, that doesn't mean you change your whole thing, but just look for creative and new opportunities. I just love, you didn't come up with all these marketing tips on how to use to market yourself or your brand and Owwll with other social media apps all at the beginning. You just started saying, hey, I'm on Clubhouse. Why don't I do this? Why don't I
Yes.
do? I mean, just all these different scenarios that come about because none of it happens until you just start taking some action and do it.
Yeah, and putting yourself out there, right? I've had bad scenarios where I've been in a clubhouse room, and then I said stuff. I was like, wow, I was bad that day, right? I was like, they're not downloading the app. I knew it. I was like, that didn't make sense what I just said. I wouldn't download it if I was them, right? But you just kind of keep getting better. You
Yeah.
kind of share the journey, share the stories. Storytelling is amazing. Of course, that helps out when others share their story. It's not me even doing it.
Yeah.
And you have to pivot quick, right? Our app has so many new features the last 6 to 8 months because
That's
I
right.
I, I listen to the audience. So what do they want? And they provided feedback. And that's actually what hurts a lot of brands. They're
Yeah.
so focused on, like, no, it was built for this reason, and they don't come
Correct.
off of that, and then it fails, right? Where
You're
I look at it as, like, I've taken the information in, and again, you also have to be careful on the other end. You take everybody's
yeah.
recommendations. You can't please everybody. You can't be the right fit for every vertical out there. So you also have to execute with intuition, right? Execute is, I think this is what everyone really needs first, and then you're building hundreds of items on a list of to do, right? But it takes a week to build every feature, right? So all of a
Yep.
sudden you're like, I can't do everything everyone wants because we're also used to the Amazons, the Facebooks. These apps are worth billions, not their companies worth billions, but in general, their apps are worth probably like the amount of infrastructure, like on a monthly basis, is millions and millions of dollars going in every month to these apps and these developers. And they expect that same feeling from a startup. And that's what's really hard, right?
Yeah.
A startup self-funding app, is never going to look the same and have all the bells and whistles from LinkedIn or Facebook or Clubhouse, right? And they expect it, like, oh, why don't you have text? Why don't you have this? Why don't you have that? I'm like, we have that on our to do, but it's like we can't do it all just yet. And we're getting there though. I mean, most people are very impressed that an app of this scale right now is self-funded because it's one thing to build it, but to see experts live every day, to get
Yeah.
a platform, that is two-sided happening, right, is practically unheard of, right? Because think of like Uber, like how did they go every city with car drivers and then people that logged in and then ask that driver to pick them up, or Airbnb or eBay? Like, how did this stuff really move? You're right. So this is all happening because of marketing, right? And it's
Yeah.
happening because of people like you, Scott and Renee. It's
Yeah.
happening because you're like, this is the real deal, and that's what markets the app. So the marketing strategy started a year ago, saying it's going to start, by getting the right people to then share the stories, because that's what will drive more people to download it. Not all the bells and whistles, all the features, that will all come over time. But if I impacted you, right, if I saved your life, Scott, because you called someone, you're going to tell the next 1,000 people you meet, you got to use this. It saved my life. And we've had situations, we can't say for certain save someone's life, but might have, right? We'll never know, like, because they went on a certain medication they weren't aware of, right? But or it got, they had a narcissist relationship and they spoke to somebody on the platform, and it got them, from literally maybe committing suicide, right, to becoming, a different human being from a conversation. So we'll never know until years, come. But I've had people crying at Podfest. Someone cried, came up to me like, "You're the founder of Owwll," and they hugged me. They're like, "This is the reason I'm at Podfest, right? Because I met someone through here, and then I created a podcast because of that, and now I'm at Podfest." So it's like that. It's like you can't. Money's not gonna, just be thrown and then change people's, experiences in life, but conversations do, right? Knowledge, wisdom do, and that's all Owwll is. We've eliminated friction, to make it a smooth environment. We didn't reinvent, something major here. We just made it easier, right? Because we knew that there was a problem out there, and we need a better platform to provide advice or give advice.
And there it is. How can we make things easier, quicker, to do business with us? Either save us, make it easy, make it quick. But I want to thank Jason Hill for a great interview today. This was outstanding. If you're an expert, or maybe you're someone that uses network apps because you're looking to connect, learn, grow, maybe you're seeking advice.
Sure.
Whatever your goal was today, I think you gave a lot of good things here. Obviously, I'm going to recommend, let me put it down here at the bottom of the screen. You can go to the App Store and download the Owwll app. You can also go to it online and download it from there as well. So owwll.com. And by the way, that Owwll is spelled with 2 W's and 2 L's. So make sure you owwll.com. Listen, if you're someone that wants to get better results using audio apps, and like I said, I built incredible. I cannot oversell the relationships that I've developed because of audio apps. So I love what you've done here. The fact that you've been able to help some of experts directly monetize, but at the same time, it's not like people are making a killing on this thing. That if you're an advice seeker, there are experts on there virtually giving away their stuff for free, but it's done in a way that's easy for you and easy for them. So I encourage you to go there. Download that app. Make sure you do it today. And then reach out to me, by the way. So I'm on there. Go ahead.
I'm going to throw in a promotion because you don't have your code at the bottom here.
Yes.
Right. So let's tell everyone who's listening, right? And you could clip this part and post about it. But if you did not use Scott's code to download it, just send me an email to feedback@owwll.com. And again, that's owwll.com. After you download it, take a screenshot, email it, and I will make sure not only do you get the $10 bonus, but I'm going to double it, right? So you will just
Oh,
have to
wow.
email me. You will get an additional $10 in your account, right? So you will start off with $20, and then I'm going to even put some sprinkles on top. You call Scott, right? You're going to leave a review. Screenshot that review that you spoke with Scott, and we're going to triple it. You'll get another $10. So you do all of that, you got $30 in your account. And of course, share your story about what Scott educated you on, provided advice and knowledge, and post about it. And who knows, we'll go for the quadruple whammy. You get another $10 if you post. Okay, $40. Okay.
That's awesome, Jason. Thank you very much. That's awesome. All right, so everyone, make sure that you follow us, you subscribe to the Move Crush Count podcast. You can do so at movecrushcount.com, as well as you can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. You can reach out to me on Owwll personally. Do that. I want to thank the MCC Nation for tuning in as well today. Don't forget also, you can join it. We've got a private community on Facebook and LinkedIn where you can join us. Experts like Jason are on there. So if you got specific questions, you can reach out to him there as well. Obviously, he's on Owwll. Share this episode. We don't spend a dime promoting it. So share this episode. All the growth comes organically. So your friends, your colleagues, your coworkers. Today's interview was sponsored. I'll put this up here. Was sponsored by J&L Marketing. J&L is a digital and direct marketing agency that delivers results with strategies that help you outsmart your toughest competitors so you don't have to outspend them. J&L is also going to give you something here, and that is an online, what they call their online espionage report. And this is free. So right now, to the first 7 people who either private message me, either on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or reach out to me on Owwll. If you want to outsmart your competitors, not be forced to outspend them, if you want to do that, the best way you could do that really is to spy. What are your toughest competitors doing? Spy on them, spy on your prospects, spy on your own company. All right. But a lot of that takes a lot of time. It takes money. So if you want to dominate online, it's critical that you know which offers, which ads your competitors are running are most effective, which ones are stealing market share from you. I can give you all this information free in this espionage report. So it'll save you a lot of time, a lot of money, and it'll give you digital marketing tips that you can integrate immediately to help you move the crowd, crush your competition, and count the money. Everybody have a great day.